Hello, everybody. Bimeral is here. Welcome to 2022. Let's kick off the year with something a little bit different. I will talk about a book and not an album. And it is, of course, a metal book because it's the autobiography by the legendary frontman and singer of Judas Priest, Rob Halford. He released the autobiography titled Confess back in September 2020. And during this break, I finally finished reading it. And I must say, right off the gate, that I loved it. It's one of the best metal biographies that I have read. I've read a few, and I can talk a little bit more about that in the future, but this is one of the best. It's very comprehensive. It's elaborates both on his personal life and his musical life. And of course, everyone knows that he came out as a gay man in the 90s. So, if I would say, probably 45% the book is about music and Judas Priest for the most part, but a big chunk of it, let's say about 45%, it's about his personal struggles, his personal life, his sexuality. And I thought that the title of the book, Confess, was really appropriate indeed, because he's really open about it. He's very detailed about his emotions, about his relationships, about his personal life with his parents, with lovers, friends. It's Yeah, it's very touching and very open in that sense. But It's very different. For example, for those who read the autobiography by Bruce Dickinson, it's very different because Bruce stayed very superficial in his stories about music and airplanes. No, Rob Halford went deep into feelings, emotions, and struggles in his personal life as well. I mentioned 45 and 45%, so there's 10% left. I think 10% is related to drug and alcohol, and his struggles in that area as well. That's also a decent part of the book. So overall, it's very fun to hear about how they came up with song titles, some of them, what are some of the songs about, how they wrote some of the songs. That's something that there is a bit of it, but that's something that I miss in many of the autobiographies. At least from my perspective, always would like to hear more how they come up with the songs. How was the writing process? Where did the ideas come from? And things like this. He touched a bit on it, but not as much as I would as a heavy metal fan and musician. I always wanted to hear more about that. So it's not a complaint; it's just a personal observation. Um, yeah. Other than that, there's a lot of stories about the people he has met. That's quite unbelievable, actually. The people he have met, like celebrities and other musicians, and his interactions. Some stories from the road that we always get in those autobiographies. Some very interesting and crazy stories about life on the road, on tour. So yeah, overall fantastic. Now I can give a little bit of a top 8 moments of the book that for me were the most interesting things that I learned, or the things that shocked me, or that I thought was, yeah, quite, yeah, top 10, top 8 moments. So for this, I'll give you a spoiler alert, because if you don't know a lot, I mean, it's autobiography, so everything's history and true and has happened already. But if you don't know and you prefer to read the book without knowing it, so stop here, because I'm gonna go into some very specifics of the book. So you've been warned. So number one for me was that the leather gear had nothing to do with Rob being gay, and actually started, I think, more with Glenn's idea, and he himself was never into that kind of stuff in his private life. Rob, I said. I mean, he was never into S&M and chains and things like this in his personal life. But of course, as soon as the band start using it, he fully adopts that persona on stage. Number two, it's something that I heard about it before, but now it's being fully confirmed that Unleashed in the East, the live album, is really fully dubbed in studio, as Rob was sick during those shows in Japan and he hated the results. He says he was out of tune and really struggling to sing because of sickness. So indeed, he went back to studio and sang the album from start to finish. That's something a lot of people know or talked about before, but I never bothered to check the facts, what was truth, but now I know for sure. Number three, it's a very funny one. The song Jawbreaker, which is an amazing song from Defenders of the Faith, is actually about a giant cock. So that was very fun to read, and actually that's something I didn't mention before. He has a very good sense of humor, and there are several funny moments in the book. Number four, it's kind of related to that because since he was in the closet for several years, other songs were also about being gay or struggling with his sexuality, and he put that in some lyrics, not very explicitly, but he put it in there, and almost nobody ever figured that out. And there's some detailed stories about that are pretty interesting. Number five, I was interested, at least in Rob's perspective, that the relationship between Glenn and Ken was never very smooth. There was always a bit of friction between the two guitars from the beginning. Number six, to this day, Rob has never listened to the Ripper Owens albums. So Jugulator and Demolition, he has never ever listened to them. I thought that was quite interesting. Number seven, it's I also didn't know the details and didn't follow it, but the Judas Priest trial, when they were accused of inciting two teenagers to commit suicide, that was a fascinating story that I didn't know the details. And actually, after I checked here on YouTube, and you can find quite a lot of news reports from that time and interviews with Rob himself and Glenn. I think that was very interesting. Completely absurd. Even the fact that this could go to court is really an absurd moment. And if they had lost that, probably the music industry, especially heavy metal, but also rap music, etc., would have completely changed. So thank God that the trial was not won by the accusers. Number 8 and last point I want to make is that a good thing that is mentioned at the end of the book, that they are pretty advanced in writing a new album to follow up Firepower, and that even though we all know the problems and the difficulties that Glenn is facing with Parkinson's disease, he's fully participating in the writing process. So he's helping and contribute as always with the music writing from this new album. So that's my view on Confess by Rob Halford. Amazing book for any fans of heavy metal, but definitely if you're a Judas Priest fan, it's almost like a mandatory read. And yeah, that's it to kick off the year, and be meta always!